The cold of space pressed against Lieutenant Abigail Wright's suit as she worked on the broken communications dish. The stars shone all around her as she floated outside the ship. The horizon was a large Terran Alliance ship, sent to meet new, alien civilizations. For 6 months they had traveled through space, meeting different aliens and trying to make friends with them. Most aliens found humans strange but interesting. Just a few more minutes, Abigail said to herself as she fixed the damaged panel. The work was simple but needed careful hands. She enjoyed these quiet moments outside the ship. Out here she could see the vastness of space and feel small, yet important. She was about to finish when her suit beeped. Something moved behind her. Abigail turned slowly, using her suit's small jets. What she saw made her freeze. An alien floated just 10 feet away. It wasn't wearing a spacesuit like humans needed. Its skin was bright blue and seemed to shine like fish scales underwater. 4 eyes lined up vertically on its face stared at her. The alien's skin pulsed with moving patterns of darker blue. Abigail recognized it as a Vakari, one of the species. They had briefly met last month. Human female, a voice crackled through her emergency radio channel. I am Zelvax of House Turam. By the ancient laws of my people, I formally request your hand in marriage. Abigail's hand slipped, and she nearly dropped her expensive repair tool into the endless void. She grabbed it just in time. What did you just say? She asked, sure she had heard wrong. The Vakari moved closer. Its skin now pulsed faster with swirling patterns. Abigail's training taught her these patterns showed strong emotions, probably anxiety or fear. I ask you to marry me, Zelvax said. It is urgent. Abigail's mind raced. Was this some kind of joke, a test? Had she misunderstood the translation? I don't understand, she managed to say. Her heart beat faster. Nothing in her 3 years of space training had prepared her for an alien marriage proposal. It must be you, Zelvax said. From a pocket, in what looked like a ceremonial robe, the alien pulled out a bracelet. It shimmered and seemed to flow like liquid metal even though it held its shape. The prophecy was very clear. A human female who works among the stars with her hands will save our bloodline. Abigail looked at the bracelet, then back at the alien's 4 eyes. Even with her limited understanding of Vakari facial expressions, she could tell the alien was deadly serious. Why me specifically? There are other women on this ship, she said, trying to think clearly despite the bizarre situation. The prophecy speaks of one who touches the void with bare hands, one who fixes what is broken, Zelvax explained. I have watched your ship. You are the only female human who regularly works outside in space. It must be you. Abigail's training kicked in. First contact situations required careful handling. She needed to be respectful but also cautious. This is very unexpected, she said slowly. On Earth, marriage is a serious commitment. We don't usually agree to it when meeting someone for the first time. I understand this is strange to you, Zelvax said. The alien's voice sounded sad even through the translator. But my family faces great danger. Without this marriage, House Turam will be completely destroyed at the next solar cycle. My parents, my siblings, my cousins, all 26 members of my house will be killed. Abigail felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold of space. Killed? By whom? The High Council of the Vakari hegemony. They have declared House Turam to be traitors because we support peaceful relations with other species like humans. My house has fallen out of power. Only the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy can save us now. Zelvax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence from top to bottom. The marriage would give my house protection under ancient laws that even the High Council cannot break. This sounds like a political problem, Abigail said. I'm just a communications engineer. I fix things. I'm not a diplomat. That is exactly why it must be you, Zelvax insisted. The alien moved the bracelet closer to Abigail. The prophecy is specific. One who fixes what others cannot see. One who speaks to the stars. Abigail looked at the communications dish she had been repairing. The alien's description fit her job perfectly. She felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. Could this be real? I need to talk to my captain about this, she said finally. This is way above my pay grade. Please hurry, Zelvac said. The patterns on the alien's skin grew more frantic. We have only 12 Earth hours before the execution orders are carried out. My entire family depends on your answer. Abigail nodded and slowly backed toward the airlock. Wait here. I'll come back with an answer as soon as I can. As she entered the airlock and waited for it to pressurize, Abigail tried to make sense of what had just happened. How would she explain this to Captain Daniels? An alien had just proposed marriage to her in the vacuum of space, claiming it would save an entire family from execution. It sounded crazy, but the desperation in Zelvax's voice seemed genuine. And if there was one thing humans had learned in their short time among the stars, it was that alien cultures could be wildly different from their own. The airlock finished its cycle. Abigail removed her helmet and took a deep breath. Someone on this ship would know what to do. They had to, because right now she had no idea how to handle an alien marriage proposal with lives hanging in the balance. Control, this is Lieutenant. Right, she said into her suit's internal comm. I need to speak with the captain immediately. We have a diplomatic situation. Captain Gregory Daniels looked tired as he sat at the head of the meeting table. He ran his hand through his gray hair and sighed deeply. The small meeting room on the ship Horizon felt crowded with 5 people inside. Abigail sat on one side of the table, still in her spacesuit with only the helmet removed. Across from her sat the blue-skinned alien Zelvax, who seemed too tall for the human-sized chair. His 4 eyes moved around the room, studying everyone carefully. Chief Diplomatic, Officer Patricia Collins sat next to the captain. Her red hair was tied back tightly, and she kept looking at her datapad, reading information about the Vakari species. Security Chief Alan Martinez stood by the door, his hand never far from his weapon. His dark eyes never left the alien visitor. Let me make sure I understand, Captain Daniels said after Abigail explained everything. This alien has asked you to marry him because of some prophecy, and if you don't, his entire family will be killed tomorrow? That is correct, Zelvac said before Abigail could answer. Though your understanding of our prophecy is simple, it captures the important parts. Patricia leaned forward. Can you explain more about this prophecy and why Lieutenant Wright specifically must be involved? Zelvax's skin rippled with blue patterns. Abigail wondered if that meant he was nervous. The prophecy of Tarula has been in my family for 12 generations, Zelvax explained. It says that when House Taram faces its darkest time, salvation will come through union with the strange ones with divided eyes and unified purpose. When we first met humans, we knew immediately you were the ones in the prophecy. All other species we know have eyes arranged vertically like ours, or in patterns of 3 or more. Only humans have 2 eyes side by side. That's interesting, Patricia said, making notes on her datapad. But why Lieutenant Wright and not any other human woman? The prophecy is specific. It must be one who works among the stars with their hands. I observed your crew for 3 days. Lieutenant Wright is the only female who regularly works outside your ship, fixing things. The match is perfect. Security Chief Martinez stepped closer to the table. And you expect us to believe this convenient prophecy just happens to match our crew member? This could be a trap. Zelvax turned all 4 eyes to Martinez. If I wanted to harm your ship, there are easier ways than creating an elaborate story about marriage and prophecies. I came alone and unarmed. He's right about that, Abigail said. He was completely exposed in space. I could have reported him as a threat instantly. Captain Daniels nodded slowly. Okay, let's say we believe the prophecy part. What exactly would this marriage mean for Lieutenant Wright? Would she have to leave our ship? Live with your people? Zelvax's top eyes blinked. The marriage is mostly ceremonial in this case. Lieutenant Wright would become officially part of House Taram. She would not need to live with us or... He paused, seeming to search for the right words. Fulfill any physical aspects of marriage. The political protection for my family would start immediately after the ceremony. And what would Lieutenant Wright get from this arrangement? Patricia asked. Her status would be high among my people. She would have access to our technology and knowledge. House Taram controls important trade routes that would be valuable to humans. Captain Daniels looked at Abigail. Lieutenant, this is completely your choice. No one will force you to agree to this. Abigail bit her lip. She had been quiet, trying to process everything. I'm not sure what to think, sir. On one hand, if I can save lives by participating in a ceremony, shouldn't I do it? On the other hand, marriage is a big deal in any culture. There's also the bigger picture to consider, Patricia said, her diplomatic mind clearly working. This could be our chance to create stronger ties with the Vakari. They control 3 major space routes that would make our journey to the Concordate capital much shorter. Or it could be pulling us into their internal politics, Martinez warned. We know very little about Vakari culture and their political system. This could make us enemies of whoever wants to eliminate House Taram. The room fell silent for a moment. Abigail looked at Zelvax, whose skin now showed slower, calmer patterns. May I ask something? Abigail said finally. Zelvax, why? Is your family in danger? Why would the leaders of your people want to kill an entire family? Zelvax's patterns changed again, showing what Abigail guessed was sadness or regret. My family, House Taram, has been pushing for more open relations with other species for many years. We believe the future of the Vakari lies in cooperation, not isolation. The current ruling houses fear change. They see other species as threats, not potential friends. When humans arrived in our part of space, House Taram welcomed you openly. This was the final proof the ruling houses needed that we are corrupted by outside influence. They used ancient laws to declare us traitors. And this marriage would protect you, how exactly? Captain Daniels asked. Our oldest laws state that a house joined by marriage to another species cannot be eliminated without a full council vote, which takes at least 1 full cycle of our largest moon, about 60 Earth days. This gives us time to gather support and prove our loyalty in other ways. Patricia nodded. It's a clever political move. They found a loophole in their own system. We prefer to think of it as using tradition to protect progress, Zelvax said. Captain. Daniels turned back to Abigail. Lieutenant, I want you to take 2 hours to think about this. Research Vakari culture. Consult with Patricia if you have questions. This is your decision, but I want it to be an informed one. Yes, sir, Abigail said. Her mind was already racing with questions and possibilities. In the meantime, the captain continued, Mr. Zelvax will be our guest. Chief Martinez will show you to our visitor quarters. As they all stood to leave, Zelvax approached Abigail. I know this is strange for you. I would not ask if there were any other way to save my family. Whatever you decide, I thank you for considering my request. Abigail nodded, not knowing what else to say. As she walked back to her quarters to research Vakari culture, she wondered how her day had gone from routine repair work to potentially saving alien lives through marriage. Nothing in the Space Academy had prepared her for this kind of first contact situation. Abigail spent the next 2 hours in her small room on the ship, reading everything she could find about the Vakari people. She learned that they were an old species who had been traveling in space for over 300 years. They were organized into family groups called houses, and the most powerful houses formed the ruling council. The information confirmed what Zelvax had said. House Taram was indeed in trouble. They controlled important trade routes, but had lost favor with the ruling houses because they wanted to trade with other species. The more powerful houses wanted to keep Vakari separate from other aliens. Abigail rubbed her tired eyes. The marriage proposal still seemed crazy, but she was beginning to understand why Zelvax was so desperate. His entire family would die if she didn't help. There must be another way, she said to herself. She wasn't against helping, but marriage seemed extreme. Then a new thought came to her mind. She quickly used her communicator. Captain Daniels, I need to call a meeting, but I want to add someone to our group. 30 minutes later, they all gathered again in the meeting room. Captain Daniels sat at the head of the table. Patricia Collins and Security Chief Martinez were there again. Zelvax sat nervously, his blue skin showing fast-moving patterns. But there was one new person in the room, Ship Engineer Joe Franklin. Joe was a quiet man in his 40s with kind eyes and strong hands from years of working with machines. He wasn't tall or particularly handsome, but people on the ship respected his ability to solve difficult problems. "Thank you all for coming," Abigail said, standing up to address the group. "I've been thinking about this situation all wrong. Zelvax, I have a question about your prophecy." The alien's four eyes focused on her. "Yes?" "Your prophecy talks about a human female who works among the stars with her hands, but it doesn't specifically say I have to be the one who marries you, does it?" Zelvax blinked his eyes one after another. "The exact wording is, open to different meanings." "Then I think I have a better solution," Abigail continued. "Instead of a marriage between you and me, what about a different kind of connection between our peoples? A partnership that would still fulfill the prophecy while being better for everyone?" Captain Daniels leaned forward, looking interested. "What are you suggesting, Lieutenant?" "A cultural exchange program," Abigail explained. "We create formal ties between House Taram and humanity. I would become an honorary member of House Taram, fulfilling the basic requirement of the prophecy, but instead of a marriage, it would be more like an adoption ceremony." "And how would that help my family?" Zelvax asked. His skin patterns had slowed down, showing he was paying close attention. "The prophecy talks about union with humans, right? A partnership can be a type of union. And here's where Joe comes in." She turned to the engineer. "Joe is our best problem solver. I'm suggesting he works with the Vakari as our technical advisor, helping them with engineering problems." Joe, who had been quiet until now, nodded slowly. "I've been looking at the information we have on Vakari ships. Their engine systems are impressive, but their life support systems could use some improvements. I think I could help with that." "This would be a win-win situation," Abigail continued. "House Taram gets protected by forming an official connection with humans, fulfilling the prophecy in spirit, if not exactly as you expected. And both our peoples benefit from sharing knowledge." Zelvax was silent for a long moment. The patterns on his skin shifted slowly as he thought. "Such an arrangement is not what I expected," he finally said. "But perhaps that is why the prophecy exists, to push us toward new ideas we wouldn't think of ourselves." "If I may," Patricia added, "this kind of cultural exchange would actually give us a stronger position with the Vakari hegemony than a single marriage would. It creates a foundation for ongoing cooperation." Captain Daniels looked thoughtful. "Chief Martinez, any security concerns with this approach?" Martinez crossed his arms. "It's still risky to get involved in their politics, but at least this way, we're not putting all our eggs in one basket. A broader agreement gives us more options if things go wrong." "There's another benefit," Joe said in his quiet way. "If I help improve Vakari ships, it shows immediately that humans bring value. It proves that working with other species can make the Vakari stronger, not weaker as the ruling houses claim." Captain Daniels turned to Zelvax. "Would this alternative satisfy the requirements of your prophecy enough to protect your family?" Zelvax's skin now showed calmer patterns. "The prophecy speaks of finding salvation through the strange ones with divided eyes. This solution is strange to us in a good way. We would never have considered such an approach." He paused, then continued. "Yes, I believe this would fulfill the prophecy's intent. The formal connection to humans would invoke the ancient protection laws." "Then let's make it happen," Abigail said with a smile. "How quickly can we arrange the ceremony?" "We can prepare it within a few hours," Zelvax said. "The basic ritual is simple. It requires the exchange of symbolic items and formal words of connection." Captain Daniels stood up. "Good. We'll hold the ceremony in the main hangar bay in 4 hours. That gives us time to prepare and make this official. Patricia, work with Zelvax on the proper protocol. Martinez, handle security. Joe, start putting together some technical information to share with the Vakari as our first gesture of cooperation." As everyone prepared to leave, Zelvax approached Abigail. "Thank you for finding a better way. I came to you with only one solution in mind. You have shown me that there are always more possibilities than we first see." "That's what humans are good at," Abigail replied. "We look at impossible situations and think, There must be another way. It's how we've survived and grown as a species. Joe joined them. We call it thinking outside the box. When the obvious solutions don't work, we try the non-obvious ones. Zelvax looked confused. Outside the box? It's just an expression, Joe explained with a gentle smile. It means looking for solutions beyond the normal ways of thinking. I see, Zelvax said, though he still seemed puzzled. Your species is truly as strange as the prophecy predicted, but I begin to understand why that strangeness might be exactly what we need. As they left the meeting room, Abigail felt proud of their solution. No one had to get married, but lives would still be saved. And perhaps this was the beginning of a real friendship between humans and Vakari. 4 hours later, the main hangar bay of the Horizon looked very different. The crew had moved ships and equipment to create a large open space in the center. They had decorated the walls with both human and Vakari symbols. The entire crew of the ship, all 142 people, stood in a circle around the empty center space. Captain Daniels stood in the middle, wearing his formal uniform with all his medals shining under the bright lights. Beside him waited Abigail, also in her formal uniform. She felt nervous but tried not to show it. Joe Franklin stood next to her, looking calm as always. He carried a small metal box containing technical information about human engineering that would be their first gift to the Vakari. A door opened and Zelvax entered. He now wore beautiful blue and silver robes that flowed around him as he walked. Small lights were woven into the fabric, making it look like he was wearing stars. The crew whispered in amazement at the sight. "He cleans up nice," Joe whispered to Abigail, making her smile despite her nervousness. Zelvax walked to the center of the circle and bowed to Captain Daniels. "I thank you for this opportunity to create a bond between our peoples," he said in a formal voice that echoed in the large room. "We are honored to form this connection," Captain Daniels replied. "Let the ceremony begin." Zelvax nodded and turned to face Abigail and Joe. From inside his robes, he pulled out 2 bracelets. They were made of the same flowing metal Abigail had seen earlier, but now they seemed even more beautiful, shifting colors from silver to blue under the lights. "With these bonds, I welcome you to House Taram," Zelvax said, as he placed a bracelet on Abigail's wrist. It adjusted itself to fit her perfectly, feeling warm against her skin. He then placed the second bracelet on Joe's wrist. "May your strange wisdom guide us through dark times." Next, Joe stepped forward with his metal box. "On behalf of humanity, I offer knowledge and friendship," he said, handing the box to Zelvax. "Inside are designs that will help improve the life support systems on your ships. This is just the beginning of what we can share." Zelvax opened the box and looked at the small data drive inside. His skin rippled with patterns of surprise and happiness. "This is a generous gift. My people will benefit greatly from this knowledge." Captain Daniels stepped forward. "By the authority of the Terran Alliance, I formally recognize this bond between House Taram and humanity. From this day forward, Lieutenant, Abigail Wright and Engineer Joe Franklin are honorary members of House Taram, and Zelvax of House Taram is an honorary member of the Terran Alliance." The crew applauded, and for a moment everyone felt hopeful about this new connection between their species. But the celebration ended quickly. Suddenly the hangar bay doors began to open. Captain Daniels looked confused. He hadn't ordered this. The doors rolled back slowly to reveal the blackness of space, protected only by the invisible force field that kept the air inside the ship. Through the open doors, they could see 3 Vakari warships. The ships were larger than the Horizon and covered in sharp angular designs that made them look threatening. "Attention, human vessel," a harsh voice boomed over the communication system. "I am Commander Kryzak of the Vakari Hegemony Fleet. You are harboring a traitor to the Hegemony. Surrender Zelvax of House Taram immediately, or we will take him by force." The crew looked at each other in fear. They had not expected such a direct confrontation. Captain Daniels stepped forward, his face showing no fear. "This is Captain Gregory Daniels of the Terran Alliance vessel Horizon. Zelvax is now formally connected to humanity through sacred ceremony. Any action against him or his house is considered an action against Earth and all human worlds. A tense silence followed. Everyone in the hangar bay held their breath, waiting for the response. "You have no authority to invoke our sacred traditions," the Vakari commander finally said. "Your ceremony means nothing to the Hegemony Council. Surrender the traitor now, or we will disable your vessel and take him." Abigail looked at Zelvax, whose skin now showed patterns of fear. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Before anyone could answer, Joe Franklin stepped forward. He had been quietly working on his datapad during the exchange. "Captain," he said in his calm voice, "request permission to transmit a message to the Vakari vessels." Captain Daniels gave Joe a questioning look, but nodded. "Go ahead, Mr. Franklin." Joe tapped on his datapad and sent a transmission. "Commander, Krizak, this is Engineer Joe Franklin of the Horizon. I've been analyzing your ships while we've been talking." "What is this?" the Vakari commander demanded. "I've noticed something important about your ships," Joe continued. "The energy readings from your portside stabilizers show a dangerous pattern. Based on my calculations, you have about 6 hours before you experience a complete failure in your shield systems. When that happens, the energy backflow will damage your life support systems." Another long silence followed. How did you know about this issue?" the Vakari commander asked, his voice now less threatening. "It's a pattern I've seen before," Joe replied simply. "The good news is I just sent you information on how to fix it. It's a relatively simple adjustment to your power distribution system." Captain Daniels looked at Joe with surprise, then quickly composed himself. "As you can see, Commander, we humans have much to offer the Vakari. The technical knowledge we shared with Zelvax is just the beginning. We prefer cooperation over conflict." The screens showing the Vakari ships. They could see activity as the alien crew presumably checked Joe's information. "The data appears incorrect," Commander Krizak finally said. "Our engineers confirmed the issue you identified." "This is exactly why my house supports alliance with humans," Zelvax said, stepping forward. "They see things differently than we do. They find solutions we miss." The prophecy was right. The Vakari commander was silent again, clearly thinking. Finally, he spoke. "The High Council will hear of this development. For now, we will withdraw. But this matter is not settled, Zelvax. Of House Taram, we will be watching." The 3 Vakari ships slowly turned away from the horizon and moved back into deeper space. Once they were gone, everyone in the hangar bay let out a sigh of relief. Captain Daniels turned to Joe with an impressed look. "How did you know about their ship problems?" Joe smiled modestly. "I didn't know for certain, but I noticed energy fluctuations in their shield harmonics that matched patterns I've seen in our own systems when we have power distribution problems. It was an educated guess, but I was pretty confident." "Your guess just saved us from a major diplomatic incident," Captain Daniels said, patting Joe on the shoulder. Zelvax approached Joe, his skin now showing patterns of deep respect. "Your mind works in strange ways, human. You saw a weakness no Vakari would have noticed because we are too used to our own technology. The prophecy spoke truly about the wisdom of the strange ones." Joe nodded. "It's what humans do best. We're good at seeing patterns that others miss." As the crew slowly dispersed to return to their duties, Abigail looked at the bracelet on her wrist. The ceremony had worked, but not in the way they expected. It wasn't the formal connection that had protected Zelvax and his family. It was human ingenuity and Joe's problem-solving mind. She wondered what other surprises waited for them as humans continued to make their way among the stars. 3 months later, Abigail stood by the large window in the observation room of the horizon. She watched as 5 Vakari ships flew alongside their human vessel. The Vakari ships were now acting as guards and guides, helping the Horizon travel safely through this part of space on their way to meet the Concordat, a group of many alien species. Abigail touched the bracelet on her wrist. It still felt warm and sometimes seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. She had gotten used to wearing it now. Joe walked into the room and stood beside her. His own bracelet glinted in the light from distant stars. "Quite a view," he said in his quiet way. "Hard to believe it all started with a marriage proposal." Abigail smiled. And who would have thought your solution would change things so much? In the 3 months since the ceremony, Joe had worked closely with Vakari engineers. He had helped them improve their ships in ways they hadn't thought possible. In return, they had shared knowledge about space travel that helped the humans. It was a good partnership for both sides. 12 human engineers now worked with the Vakari, and 20 young Vakari had come to learn from humans. It was the beginning of a true friendship between their species. The door opened, and Zelvax entered the room. His blue skin looked healthier, now with calm, happy patterns moving across it. "My friends," he said, joining them at the window. "I bring good news from home. The High Council has officially canceled all actions against House Taram. We are safe, and it is all because of you." "That's wonderful news," Abigail said. "What changed their minds?" "The improvements to our ships," Zelvax explained. "The other houses have seen how working with humans has made Vakari technology better. They now speak of humans as the problem solvers, a title of great respect among my people." Captain Daniels and Patricia Collins entered the observation room. They both looked pleased. "We just received a message from Earth," Captain Daniels announced. "The Terran Alliance has officially recognized House Taram as our main partner in Vakari space. And the Concordat leaders have moved our membership application to the top of their list." "All because you saw a different way," Zelvax said, looking at Joe. "When faced with my desperate proposal, you didn't just say yes or no, you found a better solution." Joe shrugged modestly. "It's just what humans do. Throughout our history, we've looked at impossible situations and asked, is there another way?" The rest of the galaxy expected either fighting or giving up, Abigail added. Nobody expected working together and finding new solutions. "That," said Zelvax, his skin glowing with what the humans now recognized as deep respect, "is why the prophecy mentioned humans. In a galaxy of old species set in their ways, your people bring something special, a different way of seeing things." "And duct tape," Joe added with a small smile. "Never underestimate human ingenuity and duct tape. Zelvax looked confused. "I'll explain later," Joe promised. "It's another example of human problem-solving." As they watched the stars through the window, Abigail thought about how strange the journey had been. It had started with an alien asking her to marry him to save his family. That strange request had led to a new partnership between two species from different parts of the galaxy. And it had all worked out, because humans, when faced with an impossible choice, always looked for a third option. That ability to think differently, to find new solutions where others saw none, might be humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. The desperate marriage proposal that began as one alien's last hope had shown the galaxy humanity's most powerful trait: the ability to find a better way and